Tena koto, tena koto, tena tato katoa. Greetings, greetings, greetings to us all, speakers and those being spoken to. Welcome to the third annual Dynamics and Power Platform Conference brought to you by myself, MVP Rami Mounla, MVP Guyan Pereira up in Auckland, and MVP Hamish Sheild. And also joining us today, we've got MVP Richard Burdes. So, hey Hamish, how's it going? And then let's have a look at Richard. How's it going, Richard? Richard is joining us soon. I also would like to thank our sponsors, Kingsway Software and Microsoft, for making this event possible and helping us with all the logistics and the setup. So this year, as a lot of you will notice, is different than the last couple of years. How is it different? Well, there's the obvious coronavirus, COVID-19, that is happening around. And as such, that had to get us to change the way we usually run our conferences. Up until Monday, we were still aiming to have the Wellington and the Christchurch event in person, with lots of you coming into the office or into the premise. And unfortunately, that is not currently possible, given the restrictions that were introduced as part of lockdown level 2 and lockdown level 3 in Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch. We had to turn the event into an online only. We completely support the Prime Minister's decision to keep us all safe. And this is one of the good things about New Zealand, is that we're all abiding by those rules. In the recording studio in here, I've got a few people helping us, the crew, the speakers, and we are practicing social distancing as much as we can, and we're limiting the numbers that can actually attend in this specific venue. And we sort of anticipated this happening. So when Guyan and Hamish and I were actually starting to plan the event, we actually made a conscious decision not to go and book large venues, not to go and commit to catering and all of that, because we didn't know what the landscape is going to look like on the day. And as you guys can see, on Monday, everything had to change. Guyan made an interesting comment, and he said, this is typical of what we typically do in a go live. So just a day before go live, the plan changes, and we can adapt really quickly. And this is one of the good things about using the technology and some of the topics that we're talking about throughout the conference today. So given the lockdown situation, a lot of us had to adapt to the current climate and to the current situation. Some of us had to grow beards just because we didn't have the pressure of actually going face-to-face with clients. Some other people had to balance between sort of working from home, looking after kids, and staying at home and having to deal with the day-to-day situation, which is an extra pressure from the usual setup that we have. But again, the technology helped us get there. Satya Nadella himself did say that in the last 2 months, they've seen more digital transformation than the last 2 years at Microsoft, which is a fantastic way to see how quickly we can transform and how quickly we can adapt to the current situation. So given that this format is going to be different, we decided to have all 3 cities running at the same time as live events. So we've got Auckland streaming, Wellington streaming, and Christchurch streaming. So far, all the different events are converging to Auckland, because this is when the keynote is going to be, and later on we're going to have our keynote speaker address us. But just wanted to talk a little bit about logistics. We do have quite a lot of sessions, and the silver lining part of that sort of online conference is that you don't have to stick to your own city's stream. So if you're interested in a topic that is taking place up in Auckland, in Wellington, or in Christchurch, feel free to jump between one stream and the other to actually go and view those interesting topics or whatever track you're trying to follow. This year, we have handpicked our speakers. We've got 21 speakers in total and 19 sessions throughout the 3 cities. And I'm really pleased to say that we've exceeded the number of attendees from the last 2 years. We have more than 400 attendees that registered to the different events. So thank you very much for everybody that actually registered to the event, and for all the people that are actually logging in to come and see us present today. This event is for you guys, and it wouldn't be possible unless you guys show us and that you appreciate it and you really like it. Throughout the sessions, we've got quite a lot of diverse topics. So obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about Power Apps. We're going to talk about the Power Platform, about Dynamics 365. We've got some Power BI sessions, some AI sessions, Power Automate sessions, and we've got a little bit of citizen developer sessions. We've got pro developer sessions as well. So we've got a good overall mix of all of those sessions. But what's different this year is that in each city, we're going to get a customer success story. So someone from the community, one of the organizations that have used Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform, and they're going to share their journey. They're going to tell us about how it went, what was good, what are the lessons learned, how would they do it maybe differently if they had to do it again, and then what is the roadmap looking like? What are the new features that we'll be using moving forward, part of that awesome platform. So at 10 o'clock in Christchurch, we've got Farmlands talking to us. At 11 o'clock in Auckland, we've got Westpac. And then later on in the afternoon, we've got the Department of Internal Affairs, the IA, with the Teramanaki project. So those are the three customers. And again, we've staggered them on purpose so that if you're interested in those customer success stories, you can jump from one stream to the other to actually make it. On top of that, the way we've organized the whole event, you will notice that all the emails that you've received, all the notifications, even from a speaker organization perspective, we decided that this year we're going to drink our own Kool-Aid. So everything that we've done today was done with the Microsoft technologies using Dynamics 365 marketing, and the live streaming is actually taking place using Teams live event. So we decided to use our own technology, go completely paperless, and the number one rule is no customization. Everything should work out of the box. So if you're interested to see what we did from a Dynamics 365 marketing perspective, Hamish is having his session this morning. He's going to talk about what did he do, what are the things that worked, what are the things that didn't work. Later in the afternoon in the Wellington stream, Marianne and I will be presenting about sort of the general overview of marketing. And again, from my perspective, what did we do, what worked and what didn't work. There is a slight change in the sessions today. So in the Wellington stream, we had to, one of the speakers unfortunately had to pull out due to personal reasons. So we've readjusted the Wellington stream to follow the exact same schedule as the Auckland and the Christchurch one. So now all streams have 6 sessions and all of them will be at the same time and they will be 55 minutes long. As you log into those streams, feel free to actually go and explore a little bit, listen to all the topics. If you've got any questions, we strongly encourage you to go and ask questions through the Q&A area. So in each stream, we've got a moderator that will be looking at those questions, and where appropriate, we'll be sort of voicing them back to the speaker so that they can answer the question. Otherwise, as the session will end, we'll allow another 5 minutes where the new speaker comes in and starts presenting the other topic. But if you have any questions on the previous topic, feel free to just ask them and then the speaker will be sort of responding via chat. If you see things that you like, and feel free to share it on social media. We've got hashtag PowerFridayNZ. So share as much as you can, just take a screenshot. It's much easier now. You don't even have to use your phone. Take a screenshot of what you're seeing in there and then just share it with the rest of the community. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Hamish. So Hamish, do you have a few words to share with us?
Hello, hi team. Just trying to get used to this Microsoft Live events. My first run on this technology, so it's pretty interesting. We used to use Teams, but Live events is a bit more different. There's a lot more going on in the background, so I got called out before when AK put my face on the screen. But yeah, thank everyone for attending this event. There's been a huge amount of, conference overload over the last 12 months since we've had COVID, and the conferences have all been online, and every weekend there's something. And so appreciate people turning up. We've got over 110 attendees here right now live with over 400 registrations, so it's an awesome turnout. So thank you for being here. And we kind of purposely made this a bit of a New Zealand focused event with New Zealand speakers and New Zealand content, New Zealand customers as well. And so I guess, put our kind of spin on the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 at this side of the world. Rami touched on, this has been a massive year of change in terms of, because COVID. Such as Dali has talked about, we had 2 years of digital innovation within the last 2 months, and it's just been crazy, right? It's just full on in terms of what people have to cope with at the moment. So I think in our industry, we are all very tech savvy. We are either all consultants or we work with tech, and I think in our roles we need to obviously implement this technology, but I think we also need to kind of focus on the human side of things, because technology has been thrown at people, and they've got to be able to adopt it and use it to, I guess, enhance their lives in a kind of new way of living. So I just like to encourage people to, have that kind of human-centered aspect to the way that you deliver your projects and go about, implementing technology for people, because that's going to become more important as we go on, and technology is just going to accelerate, and people are going to have to try and keep up. And I just also want to a quick thank you to everyone who's helped. So behind the scenes, there's just a huge amount of effort going on, and we've actually kind of been quite overwhelmed with the support. So we've actually had to turn down things like sponsorship and things like that, because we've got almost too much going on. So thank you to everyone who's offered support and everyone who has supported us today. It's been really great. But enjoy the sessions. I hope you all learned something today. And I think we're now going to hand over to Richard Burdes to have a bit of a spiel from Christchurch. Okay, Richard.
Hey Hamish, thanks mate. Hope you can hear us all right. Oh, there's a delay, I think, a 30-second delay, so I just make sure that it's all working.
All good, mate. We can see you and hear you.
Okay. I'm looking at the big screen up there. I think you guys can hear me talk, so I think I'm going to keep going. So it's all good. Hey, thanks for joining Christchurch. We've got a big spread of presenters here. Big focus on Power Apps, DevOps, as well as Dynamics 365. So it's great information started. If you're already in the platform and want to get better, if you want to troubleshoot your issues, and if you want to take your pro dev activities even further, then there's some great sessions in Christchurch. And then just check the feed for Christchurch and come across and join us during our session. So looking forward to having you, and just please ask questions and make suggestions as we go. It'd be great to hear from you. Back over to you guys.
Sorry, Rami, mate, you're on mute.
All right, hopefully this is better.
Yeah, thank you.
So just repeating what I was saying. So we had a slight change of plan in terms of our keynote speaker. Originally, we were hoping to have Donna Sarkar come and present, but unfortunately, where she is right now, she's going to be offline and she wouldn't be able to attend. But instead, we're getting an equally good presenter, Greg Hurlman. Greg Hurlman is from Microsoft Corporate in Seattle, so he's joining us all the way from the other side of the world. Greg is a Power Platform sort of developer advocate, member of the Power Platform production team, and is a very big fan of helping building things to let others build things to get better at their job and faster, easier, as much as possible. So before joining the Power Platform team, Greg was actually part of the SharePoint team, the SharePoint consultancy, and he has a very good track record of awesome deliverables throughout his career at Microsoft. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Greg. So Greg is joining us from the US. Hey, Greg. You are on mute, Greg.
Okay, I'm unmuting and I'm
Perfect.
minimizing that window and my screen should be shared. And hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. Donna does send her regrets that she couldn't make it. But if you know Donna and how she is at all, the fact that she is without internet wherever she is punishment enough for her. So today I am glad to come to you from the Developer Advocate Organization. I'm a new advocate on that team. I'm coming from the Power Platform product team. And the role I'm in now is to talk about the Power Platform, not just the app maker side of things, not just the citizen dev side of things. I'm going to be talking a lot more as time goes on about the professional developer side of things. But today I'm talking about what Power Apps is, where we've been talking. We've got our own little customer story we're going to talk about, and then we'll get into the future just a little bit. So if I actually click on my slides to advance, there we go. Okay, so we just talked about that, where we are, where we're going, what's next. Let's move on. So a brief history, where have we come? It's been actually not very much time, and we've come a super long way inside the Power Platform. It was just November 2015, not even 4 years ago, where Power Apps was first announced to the world as something that Microsoft was building to help create that citizen dev low-code story from Microsoft. It wasn't too much longer after that, 2016, when the Power Apps, Microsoft Flow, and the Common Data Service were all officially released. And yes, I know they have spaces and it's not Flow anymore, but it was in 2016, so that's why I did it. After that, not too long after that, we had Dynamics 365 version 9.0 and the Unified Client Interface be released. I was actually part of the Dynamics team at that time, so that was a lot of work, but it was worth it to replat Dynamics back on top of the Common Data Service as a separate thing. Common Data Service kind of came from Dynamics, and we had to kind of fit that back on top as we built UCI. But UCI is a big step and a big part of Power Apps because of what happened next, where we got model-driven Power Apps, or as I like to call them, Dynamics without Dynamics. It is that form-driven UI built on top of the Common Data Service, taken from the Dynamics Unified Client Interface and made its own thing, to the point where I like to think of Dynamics 365 now as just the world's most complicated, most customized model-driven Power App, or really set of Power Apps. So that's model-driven apps, and then since then we've been iterating. We've been adding new connectors all the time, adding new features to Power Apps and Flow, and now Power Automate all the time. And just this past year, we released Power Virtual Agents, first announced back at Ignite, and then released generally available back in December. And they are off and running and are definitely still growing and still iterating at that same speed. So Power Virtual Agents will definitely grow into something that we'll all know and love as time goes on. For now, it does really rock that kind of key kind of chatbot functionality. But that's where we've been. But what I wanted to talk about that because of the customer I'm going to be talking to you about, and it's a customer story of sorts because it's actually Microsoft. The Microsoft Global Sales and Marketing Organization is a global, literally, organization with tens of thousands of people around the world doing sales and marketing work for Microsoft, talking to customers, working with them, getting them what they need, making sure that the support is where it should be and all that. And that sales and marketing organization has been on Dynamics 365 just as long as there's been Dynamics 365. They are one of the biggest customers that the Power Platform has just overall on the Dynamics side of things. And they have a ton of information on there, whether from leads to opportunities, to contracts, to accounts, to contacts. You can imagine the amount of data that Microsoft has over years and years and years inside Dynamics 365. So as they were working with Dynamics, as the Power Platform kind of came to be as Power Apps and Flow and the Common Data Service kind of became its own thing, a team of citizen developers actually grew within that organization to start filling in those gaps. We have citizen devs within Microsoft all over the place, but this group of citizen devs, there's just 4 of them now, a manager and 3 people that report to him, work to build apps for this group that are by far the top used apps on the Power Platform inside Microsoft. And if you're talking about whether it's a quarter end or quarter beginning, or we just went through a new fiscal year, they are far and away the most used apps inside Microsoft. And that's because they use these apps for their account planning, for account executives that are given new accounts, or they switch between accounts, and they need to do their planning. They need to do their work. They need to do all their research to make sure that the account, that they can properly give their accounts what they need. They create these detailed plans for each customer, what the customer needs, what they think they're going to need in the future, where they want them to go, what the support needs are, and so on. And they all need to be reviewed by the sales managers, the sales leaders, make sure that everything is fitting according to the overall plans that the organization has. And of course, on top of that, they need Word documents generated from all this data to be generated on the fly at a moment's notice for executive briefings, for meetings with the customer, to be able to take all this information that's being gathered and get the summation of it to present to a customer, to show them this is what we're planning, this is what we're working on, this is what we've got for you, so they can walk the customer through that plan. The best part, I think, is working with this application and all this data that was in it to get something that could build these plans and power this kind of business process. The first version of the app took just one of these citizen developers 45 days from zero to complete something that was being used by people around the world. When we talk about the Power Platform, it's not just allowing the citizen developers to build the apps that they're building, but it's the speed at which they can build those apps and speed at which they can iterate on top of those apps that is really just amazing to me. As a kind of classic developer that I've been a developer for decades now, I didn't really understand that power that the Power Platform had until I started writing my own apps that were being used inside my organization. And if there were feedback requests, if there were feature requests, if there were things that needed to be added, the fact that I could open up the app, make the change, and publish it in a matter of minutes or maybe a couple hours is amazing. And even at this scale, building something at 45 days was really unbelievable. So what it actually looked like. So this is the account planning app. This is what it looks like. And it feels like a real app, and it is a real app. There's a lot going on inside these. All the account planning steps, all the different steps that go into building that plan are down the side. And then we have our strategy map, who's the CEO, what the priorities are, what the actions are, opportunities, and so on. So this is all building, sharing that data with the Dynamics 365 organization. Data is being put in and changed inside the Power Apps and inside Dynamics 365 at the same time. They're all kept in sync because the data lives in the same spot, that common data service. So they're building these strategy maps, and they're pulling in global research. The app reaches out and finds research that other parts of the company have done and bring it in based on some AI capabilities to make sure that the right research is being shown to the account executive when they're looking at a particular account. So make sure that transportation news is shown when they're looking at a transportation company and so on. So all that research is being brought in as well, so they can build that plan out. Now, of course, they've got all this data, they've got all these plans, they want to make sure they can track it, and it wouldn't be a Power Platform solution if they weren't using Power BI, and of course they do. This is one particular view that they have, their scorecard, to make sure that an organization has all the plans that are that need to be in, the stages they're at, what the priorities are, and so on. I've already filed a bug report with the team to let them know. The first thing I noticed, that account executive box is a little bit off from the rest of them, and that's not okay. But that's all right. They'll fix it for the next version. But Power BI is there. Managers love them some Power BI, and all that on top of the Common Data Service powers that. And of course, we have Power Apps, we have the Common Data Service, we have Power BI. We got to have Power Automate, and yeah, they do use Power Automate. They have a ton of stuff they use to do that account plan export, to build those Microsoft Word documents, those executive summations for the process. So I've got this screenshot of the flow, and it does give you a little bit less, some of the more sensitive stuff blurred out, but to give you an idea of what this team is doing, the amount that they try to push everything they can, pushing the limits of what the Power Platform can do in top of Power Apps, but also inside Flow. This is what that flow really looks like. Spanned out, number of different steps, looping back to build out a Word doc. It's an amazing flow. It does a whole lot. And if you're in there changing things, you should be afraid. But it's super amazing what this team has done. Now, like I said, 3 people plus a manager building out this app, and many more that are reaching out towards new systems with the insights that are coming from Outlook, reaching out to common systems on the back end that deal with seller compensation. So you're talking about SAP and other financial databases where you really can't get it wrong. And the need for that really built on top of need for custom connectors. And so what they really had to come up with and what they really had to do was become a Fusion dev team. And these Fusion teams are what we've started to call these teams that are Power Platform developers and also traditional developers working on usually back-end systems, or maybe sometimes developers that they need to build custom UI controls. But it's 2 groups of developers, one that knows the Power Platform and one that doesn't, that need to work together towards a common goal. Not every organization is going to be able to have dedicated traditional developers for the Power Platform. So you need to be able to build these teams and figure out who can work on what. And where this team really kind of came together and kind of made their piece was over the demilitarized zone of the custom connector configuration. Beyond the custom connector was the API, and the traditional devs definitely owned that. On top of the custom connector was the Power App, and the citizen devs from GSMO definitely owned that. And it was just the custom connector. And that actually took some iterations, some time to make sure they could start speaking that same language so that the API could be built to fit what a Power App can do, to make sure that if you're getting data, you're using a get method in the API, not a post method. If you have a post method inside the API to get data, if you try to call that within, say, the items property for a gallery inside your Power App, it's going to complain because posts are looked at as behavior functionality, not get me some data functionality. So you have to make sure that you're kind of synchronizing between the two. You have to draw those support boundaries, make sure that it's understood who owns that thing in the middle and who owns either end and who responds to what. But you start building that governance between the two. What can central IT manage, and what do they want to secure? What data policies do they want to have in place? And then what do the citizen devs need to get their work done? Do they need these connectors? Do they even care if they ever talk to the Twitter and Facebook and whatever other connectors of the world? Maybe not. So you have to work with IT to synchronize those policies. Through this conflict, they've been working with the product team that we've built out a lot of the things that you see today to help with that management, to enable Power Platform developers to really still build their apps, but allow IT to feel good about it. So you see they have the what I call the meta connectors, Power Apps for makers, Power Apps for admins. The connectors where you can have a flow run every time somebody creates an app, so the person that created that app gets an email with pointers to all the different corporate rules for creating those apps, and so on. So we are really just kind of eating our own dog food, so to speak, building out the Power Platform, and this team is really taking that forefront and run with it, pushing the Power Platform to things that we could have never imagined a few years ago when we were building this product. And we're super glad they do, because for everything that they point out that needs to be better, everything that we fix so that it is better, gets better for everyone. And it really comes down to these 4 people inside sales, and it's amazing what a citizen developer can do to drive the whole company forward. And we've seen that all over the place and in our customers as well. Anyway, you can read more about them, the entire account planning story, and read about the people that have built it and so on at AKMS/account planning story, if you're interested in that. But that's now, right? So we've talked about where we came from briefly. We talked about an example of what's going on right now with the Power Platform. What's up next? Where are we going? And really the biggest thing that I can imagine where we're going up next is Project Oakdale. It's not just a project that doesn't know what it's called. It is a ton of work that the entire Power Platform development team has done to make sure that the Power Apps inside Microsoft Teams is a top flight opportunity to build your apps. Microsoft Teams integration across the board has been a top priority for a company because of everything that's been going on. Get out your bingo cards if you'd like me to say, in these unprecedented times. But as one of the things that we did inside the Power Platform team to help all the healthcare professionals and all the governmental agencies that were trying to synchronize everything up at the beginning was build that crisis communication Power App template. And it did a lot and it helped a lot of people, but boy, it took a lot of work to deploy that template. And the reason for that is because you had to have, you know, the Power Apps, and you had to have the flows, but you also had to have a SharePoint site and all the lists created on that SharePoint site and everything else that goes into managing and treating SharePoint as a data source, which was a whole other level of things that maybe Power Platform folks hadn't done a lot in SharePoint. And what happened was that some of our management came to us and showed us a GIF of what that documentation looked like to set that up. And that GIF I sped up a little bit because we didn't want to sit here for literally a minute watching something scroll, but it looks like this. This is the documentation for setting that up. It is insane. That's probably 20 times speed. It goes on and on and on and on, and that was not okay. If we want to have somebody use this sort of app to help them with an ongoing crisis, the last thing we want to do is send them on a week-long journey of installing things and setting things up. So Project Oakdale was born. The idea of getting a data store that you could have inside Microsoft Teams for apps that are built inside Microsoft Teams. And you don't have to worry about where to put your data. You don't have to worry about creating a SharePoint site. You don't have to worry about creating an Excel sheet and putting it in the right folder inside OneDrive and making sure you set the security right on that folder and on that worksheet so that people using the app can also get to that worksheet and so on. All of that just works because all of that data is going to live inside a version of the CDS that comes with that Microsoft 365 Power Platform license that you get to build Power Apps and Power Automate, and now Project Oakdale stuff with that license with no extra cost. And you can be building that entirely within Microsoft Teams. And I wanted to show you a little bit of what that looks like and what the UI is going to look like when that is released here soon, hopefully, for Project Oakdale. So if we look at here, before I kick this off, actually, that is at the very end. So why don't we go all the way back to the beginning? Sorry about that. So this is the homepage for Power Apps inside Microsoft Teams. It's right alongside your chats and calendar and so on right here on the side. If you click on that, this is the homepage you're going to get. And if you want to create an app, well, click on the button that says create an app. Once we do that, you pick a team that you belong to for the app to belong to, click create. It loads up the Power Apps authoring experience right here. And the first thing we do is create a table. A table is essentially an entity in the back end, but it's what we're calling the entities inside this kind of this CDS Lite, so to speak. And you create the table, you create your columns right there in line. In this case, we're doing event itineraries. So we have session codes, session types. That's going to be an option list. So you can then create your options right there in line. We're going to a meal, a breakout, so on and so forth. Color code them, click create, and build out the rest of your columns. Once you've done that, you click on the plus at the end and you can start building data inside that table right there in the same view without having to save, without having to reload, without having to go into a different view. It's right here. So we build out our breakfast. It's for everybody. It's a meal, 100 people in the dining hall. Fantastic. So we fill out all that data in the rest of our sessions, and then back in the app, you draw the rest of the owl and you can build your app on top of that. But let me pause that so we can take a look at this app real quick to see what we're looking at. We have our event itineraries here, and yes, it is a common data service entity. It's just that lighter version of the common data service, that Oakdale version of the common data service that you're getting that powers those tables. So it's not the same. There are some capabilities that won't map 100% across from like a fully licensed version of a CDS database, but it is a CDS powering these entities on the back end, whatever we wind up calling Project Oakdale and its tables. But it is built out, and then in here we just have your simple gallery to list through everything, and then the details on the side, like you might have built 100 times inside of a Power App for master detail views, just right off of the event itineraries that you just created. It's actually pretty slick, pretty neat, all right there in Microsoft Teams. everything that you're used to is there. Adding data, the new screen button, app checker, settings, which will get you to your app name and icon and picking the features and so on that screen. And of course, you can save it, you can preview it, you can run your app like you always can, and then you publish it out to your team, that team you picked at the beginning, so that everybody inside that team can then see that app and use it and do whatever you need to do. So that is Project Oakdale, and it's coming up here soon. We need to figure out what we want to call it, and we need to iron out some issues that are ongoing, but nothing that's too bad. We're on the glide path, so to speak. We just need to get it across that finish line. So now we need to talk about, we've talked about what's here, we talked about what's next, we talked about what's coming with Project Oakdale. So what's next? Where do we go from here? Well, there's a few things that's going on that I want to point out. First and foremost, Microsoft Ignite. If you are doing anything in the Microsoft stack, you can't miss Ignite. That's everything that Microsoft is doing right now is going to be there. And this year, because of everything that's going on, it is entirely online. It is entirely free to attend, so why wouldn't you? It's September 22nd and 24th, 2020. They are working on making sure that all the sessions are repeated across time zones to make sure that you don't have to be up at 2 in the morning to watch a session if you want to. So make sure you head out to AKMS/Ignite to register for that. You don't want to miss it. We do have an upcoming Udacity source for introduction to Power Apps, something that Microsoft has done really across the board for a long time, and the Power Platform is not really all that different, is that we have a lot of documentation for folks that maybe have started to dip their toe, that maybe have looked at what we're talking about, that maybe have played with it a little bit, but we don't have start from zero documentation. We don't have documentation for the person that comes in and is told, okay, you're working on Power Apps now. That is something we're seeing happen a lot inside our customers. I was a SharePoint guy, as Rami mentioned at the beginning. So that one of the tale as old as time in the SharePoint world was that you would come in one day and find out you're now the SharePoint person. Good luck. Same thing is happening now for Power Apps. And so we're building out this introduction to Power Apps to get you from zero. What is Power Apps? What is Power Ignite or Power Automate? How does the data connectors work? All that good stuff. How do you create an app? How do the events work? Yada, yada. We're building out that course right now with the good folks at Udacity, and that'll be up there later on this year. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And at the other end of that spectrum, we have a new certification exam to go along with the new certification, PL400 for the Microsoft Power Platform developer. I'm working with our exam people now to make sure that the questions on the exam are complete and correct and fair. I've taken a lot of those exams. I know how they can be. And we're working on that right now. It's in beta if you want to take a look at it now. And that'll go towards what we're calling kind of code first or traditional dev scenarios in the Power Platform. So that's going to cover custom connectors. It's going to cover the Power Apps component framework. It's going to cover plugins. If you can write .NET code, JavaScript code on the Power Platform, it's going to be covered in that exam. So that is something that we're working on right now, with a lot more what I like to call code first Power Platform content on the way. If you're a .NET developer, if you're a JavaScript developer, and the Power Platform seems interesting, and you want to know where to put your code, where those hooks are, a lot more content is coming your way. My role in particular didn't exist until this kind of pivot towards really empowering all developers on the Power Platform kind of came around in the last few months. And I'm going around to documentation. I'm going towards events. I'm looking at learn content. I'm looking at the exams. I'm looking at community. I'm meeting with our community folks as well to make sure that there is a home for the Power Platform code first devs, or at least that you can find each other, or at least that we can all get along, that pro code, low code, no code, unite. I'm with it. I'm there. I want to see it happen. So we're all Power Platform developers, including the Dynamics folks, including the Power BI folks, everybody. We're all Power Platform developers, whatever skill set we're bringing to the fore, to help us all be successful going forward. But that is what I've really got for you today. If you want to come and talk to me, if you want to complain about Power Apps or anything else, you can reach me at AKMS/Greg. That'll get you my my Power Platform community page. You can drop me a message there. And I'm on Twitter way too much at 98codes. My direct messages are open. You can always talk to me there. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to talk to you today. I hope that the event as it goes on in 3 different cities is fantastic. I wish I could hold on for the whole thing, but my day is rolling on, and I've got, we'll see how much I can hold on to before I start to pass out. Thank you, everybody, and Rami and team, back to you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Greg. That was an amazing session, actually. I really enjoyed it. I really loved how you were at Microsoft focusing on very little details and making sure everything is perfect. That's probably the OCD in you, Greg. We're saying this field in here is not aligned. And Project Oakdale, great to see it happen. Great to see the sort of the effort that is put into it, and also that balance between sort of citizen developers, professional developers, and how is that going to work. We've got a few sessions throughout the day that we're going to talk about those bits, so feel free to attend. I do encourage people to actually attend the live streaming. There will be some recording later on that we will be releasing, but do attend the live streaming. It's a different experience, and you will get the option to interact. So if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. If you're having some issues and you're interested in a topic and you want to find an answer for your issue, just put it into the Q&A area, and then we'll make sure that it's actually voiced to the speaker, and then they'll be able to present to answer that question. Once again, thank you very much for our sponsors, Kingsway Soft and Microsoft, for making this event possible. Thank you, Greg, for being our keynote speaker and doing such a fantastic job. So maybe next year, if the COVID stuff is all over, maybe we'll fly you over to New Zealand and get you to present in person. I'm sure everybody would love that. And with that, enjoy the rest of the day. What we're going to do now is break for morning tea for about 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll carry on with all the different streams running at the same time. Thank you very much.